Hello, welcome to my little library. We are here with a beautiful, enchanting story of Sleeping Beauty. Once upon a time, there lived a king and queen who longed for a child. When at last the queen gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, it seemed that their happiness was complete. A splendid christening party was planned, and all the noblest families in the kingdom were invited. "We must ask the 12 good fairies to be godmothers to our child," said the queen. "Indeed," said the king, "for they will give her gifts that no mortal can give." On the day of christening, a sumptuous banquet was prepared, and tables were laid with the finest linen and silver. A special table was set for the good fairies. At each of the 12 places was a plate, a goblet, and cutlery, all made of precious gold. Soon coaches and carriages, each one grander than the one before, arrived in stately procession. Servants escorted the guests to the banquet hall, where the king and queen sat waiting. Beside them, the little princess slept peacefully in her cradle. Just as the festivities were about to begin, the sound of dainty footsteps came from the courtyard. A hush fell over the room. All eyes turned to the door as the 12 fairies entered. Then, unexpectedly, a 13th fairy appeared. She had not been invited because she was an evil fairy, known for her violent wickedness. The king and queen gasped in dismay now that the wicked fairy had come. They dared not ask her to leave. The queen quickly ordered a servant to set another place. Since there were only 12 gold dinner settings, the 13th place had to be laid with silver. When the wicked fairy saw the others eating from gold dishes, she was furious. "First they failed to invite me," she hissed. "Then they set me my place with common silver. They will pay dearly for this insult." The fairy who was sitting beside her heard everything. Certain that her wicked sister had an evil plan, this good fairy resolved to be last in her line when it came time to give the princess her gifts. As soon as the banquet was over, the fairies came and stood by the royal cradle. One by one, they presented the princess with such magical gifts as beauty, grace, wisdom, and good nature. Soon she had every virtue a child could possess. Then came the wicked fairy's turn. "My gift to you is a curse," she shrieked, glaring at the little princess. "On your 15th birthday, you will prick your finger on a spindle and die." Everyone trembled at the terrible words. Now the last fairy stepped forward. She could not undo the curse, but she could soften it. "My gift to you is life," she said to the princess. "You will prick your finger on a spindle, but you will not die. Instead, you will sleep for 100 years. Then you will be awakened by a kiss of a king's son." That very day, by royal command, every spindle and spinning wheel in the kingdom was destroyed. The princess grew up to be a lovely young girl, endowed with all the gracious gifts the good fairies had given her. As for the wicked fairy's curse, there seemed no chance that it could come true. On the morning of her 15th birthday, while everyone was busy preparing for the celebration, the princess wandered through the castle by herself. At the end of winding passage, she discovered a narrow stairway. The steps led her to a small door. Wondering what lay beyond, she pushed it open and looked in. Against the back wall stood an elaborate bed. Beside it sat an old woman turning the wheel of a strange wooden object. The princess stared in surprise. "What are you doing?" she asked. I am spinning thread, the old woman replied. Curious, the princess stepped forward and reached out to touch the wheel. The spindle wired, and in a flash the silver tip pricked her finger. At the same moment, the old woman disappeared with a triumphant shriek of laughter. But the princess did not hear it, for in that instant she sank to the bed in an enchanted sleep. Everything grew still. There was not a sound to be heard. A deep sleep fell upon every living creature within the castle walls. The king and queen in the throne room, the cooks in the kitchen, the maids in the chambers, the horses in the stables, the dogs in the courtyard, and the cats in the mid street. Even the flies on the walls stopped buzzing. The princess herself lay as though she was in a dream. In no time at all, a high hedge sprang up around the castle. Twisted trunks and thorny branches wound themselves together, forming a living wall that no one could penetrate. Nothing like it had ever been seen before. Word of the mysterious head spread throughout the land, and countless stories were told of the sleeping princess. Young men came from near and far to see her, but the hedge held them back. Time went by, and people forgot the castle was even there. Thus, for 100 years, everything lay in an enchanted sleep until one day a prince rode by. When he asked what lay beyond the hedge, an old man told him the legend of the beautiful sleeping princess. I must see her for myself, said the prince. That is impossible, the old man warned. All who have tried to pass through the hedge have failed. I will not fail, declared the prince. He turned his horse towards the hedge. Magically, the thorns changed into delicate flowers, and the hedge parted like a curtain to let him pass. When he reached the other side, the prince found himself in front of a great castle. He quickly dismounted and went inside. All was silent save for the echo of his footsteps as he moved through the marble halls. In the room after dusty room, he found strange figures still as statues, but none was the sleeping princess the old man had spoken of. Just as the prince was about to give up, he came at last to the room at the top of the narrow stairway. When he opened the door, he stared in awe. On the bed lay the princess, still deep in her enchanted sleep. She was lovelier than the prince had dared to imagine, so lovely that he knelt to kiss her. As their lips touched, the princess slowly opened her eyes. She saw the handsome prince, and her face lit with joy. You have come at last, she whispered. The instant the princess spoke, every living creature in the castle awakened, and the sound of laughter and revelry echoed throughout the halls. Soon after, the prince and princess were married in a magnificent royal wedding. The guests rejoiced with the happy couple, and everyone celebrated long into the night. So glad were they to be awake again after sleeping for 100 years.